slow them down somewhat.
And today, these continuous climbs, though they are very hard, the descents are also going to be selective. Wet, small, somewhat treacherous for sure. So it's going to make a difference. Today's race is going to be blown apart into small groups by the finish line.
Slowly grinding up the climb.
This is turning into a classic Death March day, and it's only the first climb.
Now remember, the elements are really conspiring against the riders today, and there's a confluence of circumstances as we move back to the front for Matteo Rabatini. It's the second of back-to-back days in the high mountains of northern Italy, the second of consecutive days of pronounced climbing, some serious mountain challenges, and it's all coming at the end of a 12 consecutive day stretch of racing before the second rest day tomorrow. So it's all coming down on the riders at one time to really wear on them physically and mentally. That is what is really going to add to the hurt here today on stage 15.
And the only thing they can really have to look forward to is the fact that they have a rest day tomorrow. But other than that, today is going to be a really rugged day.
Some big names to pull down to the race. Of course, Tor Hushoff, Tyler Farah, Daniele Benatti, Filippo Pozzato. A lot of these guys victims of crashes at one point or another. And we're now down to 177 riders remaining in the Giro going into the final week of racing. And we'll probably lose some more guys today and as the final week unfolds. Although they are still ahead of the pace of the last couple of years, they haven't lost as many riders at this point as they did back in 2011 and 2010. Matt Goss, Mark Renshaw, two of the top sprinters have gone home. So
the biggest really loss in the race so far has been sprinters, and that's, you know, it's understood. This last week is very harsh for the sprinters, and so a lot of them have said it's time to get out of here. But we've lost some others to injury and other things. The big one is Frank Schleck today, number 171.
Yeah, several days ago, and in the first medium mountain stages as well, he was riding pretty good. He was at the front, showing that he had some form, and we thought maybe he would be a contender, even though he was a late addition to the Radio Shack squad for the Giro. But that crash has really impacted him, and as a result, he couldn't go on, pulls out on stage 15. So that's one less GC rider for the others to contend with. We are now 2.5 hours in, 3 kilometers away from the summit of the Category 1. These are the chasers.
Sella continuing to lead this group, although he doesn't look particularly great. I actually think Rabatini looks better than this chasing group, and he's been off the front for a long time.
Now this is a day where the calculus can become important. Measuring your efforts. And right now, Rabatini just riding steady through the rain. The lead at 5:14 with the summit in the distance.
Just 50 meters once he gets to this corner. So Rabatini down with one.
Matteo Rabatini, the first rider over the first climb on a very tough day at the Giro d'Italia. Here is Rabatini. See how wet the roads are. The Italian from Farnese Vini on the descent. And other riders getting some assistance from the side of the road.
Technically not allowed to get pushed by the fans, but there's not a lot any of the officials can do about it, as Marco Pinotti now has come to the front of this chasing group as he sees an opportunity to get something here. But look at that, only 39 seconds advantage for that chase group now over the peloton, with Liquigas Cannondale leading the charge.
They're coming up towards the crest of the hill, and this chasing group losing time to the peloton as opposed to gaining time on the leader.
There's still a lot of opportunity for a lot to happen in this bike race, and even though the race organization characterized this day as a 4-star day and yesterday was a 5-star, with all these climbs and these smaller roads, I knew today was going to be more selective than it looked. And now with the rain, it's going to turn into a 5-star for sure.
It's hard to overstate just how much the rain changes the race. It's always hard when you have 4 climbs in the high mountains, but the rain, the wind, and the cold temperatures really had a huge impact on the dynamic of the race, something that sometimes you just can't see empirically by watching.
Yeah, the legs of the guys start to seize up, the muscles get tight, things get pulled and strained, you end up with injuries, you just don't fire as well, you burn tons of calories, on and on.
Some riders grabbing newspapers to put inside their jackets for the descent. A Bacon Soleil rider, I think, grabbing La Gazzetta dello Sport, the national paper.
May as well.
Because the paper's pink. That's the way they got the color for the pink jersey of the overall race leader.
Chiruka now pushing on here and fracturing this chasing group a little bit. Brutsagin on the left, sitting up, trying to zip up the vest, and he got it zipped.
Chiruka was in the move for a while yesterday. And leading the way for the chase group over the summit. Just inside of 5 minutes now behind our leader, Matteo Rabatini.
Marco Pinotti, the multi-time Italian national time trial champion, and he'll look to make good on some of that form here today. We'll see separations happening on this descent. Guys will attack because they know they have a chance. Basso hates this type of descent, and some guys may try and take advantage of that.
And another variable is who wants to take the risk on such wet roads.
Apparently Rabatini does. He is really putting it all out there right now, throwing a lot of caution to the wind.
On a descent like this, would you rather be riding by yourself like Rabatini or in a group like the chasers of the peloton?
I'd rather not be there. I'm so happy to be retired when I see days like this. Rabatini just sort of floating over some bumps there and then setting up for that next corner.
We mentioned that the roads are not all that well paved. They're very narrow, twisting and technical too, so a lot to be attentive with regards to how this day is unfolding. This is some of that separation that's happening on the descents of the Category 1 as everybody has gone over the top in terms of our leader, the chasers, and the peloton. There goes the newspaper. Said I wanted the comics, not the sports section.
Oh, these are some sharp corners to be taken in the wet. And this is off the front of the peloton, so guys trying to get away. You can see the green jackets there for Liquigas Cannondale. Second man around is Ivan Basso. Look at how carefully he's taking it. That also shows some poise and some experience, knowing you can lose the race on a descent like this if you crash and get hurt. But you can't win the race on this descent.
The pink jersey of Ryder Hejdahl was there near the front wearing a blue rain jacket for Garmin Barracuda. So Hejdahl staying where he needs to be, near the front, and with all of his other GC rivals around him. And they are 5.5 minutes back of this leader, Matteo Rabatini, who's just inside of 5 minutes ahead of a chasing group of riders with 76.7 kilometers left to go. And this is the action off the front of the chase group, it looks like. Now single file back at the head of the peloton and Liquigas Cannondale. Still 3 riders at the front of this group, but it looks like it's getting smaller on the descent.
Yeah, in fact, we're already looking at bits and pieces of this bike race and guys in between groups. And it's just going to get more chaotic as the day wears on. More and more separation, more guys blowing up, more guys going backwards, more guys going forward from groups.
And it's also difficult to tell exactly who is where and how far they are either ahead of somebody or behind somebody else, because they just don't have enough cameras, either on the motorbikes or in the helicopter, to follow everybody. You try to keep things in perspective as much as possible, but it just gets so crazy out there on the road with a day like today. Under 76K, Matteo Rabatini, the lone leader for Farnese Vini. A lead of 5 minutes on the chasers and 5.5 on the main field. That's what we're looking at right now down through the trees. Liquigas Cannondale at the front. Now our leader, Rabatini. Not been shy about really diving into this descent.
Not shy at all.
Well, Farnese Vini really looking for some results in the final week of the Giro. They lost one of their team leaders in Filippo Pozzato with a broken hand. He caused a crash several days ago, was forced to pull out. Oscar Gatto, one of their other team leaders who won a stage last year at the Giro, really hasn't featured all that much this year. So Farnese Vini looking for something to happen, and Rabatini trying to make that happen here on stage number 15.
Pinotti leading that group. He's got Matteo Carrara right behind him.
That's the front of the peloton. Ivan Basso up there amongst two teammates. No team has done more work at the front of the GC group at this year's race than has this Liquigas Cannondale team. And no team, ironically enough, has attacked less than Liquigas Cannondale. They've been riding at the front, not attacking, just controlling. And that's what they figure to do until deep into week number 3, unless something really gets out of hand, and then they have to respond.
We saw Basso doing some hard riding yesterday after he had used up all of his domestiques on the final climb. I think he wanted to get rid of Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez at this point is getting very scary to a guy like Ivan Basso, because the long climbs are typically where he finally gets dropped, and he didn't yesterday.
So this is apparently Damiano Cunego.
I just don't know how you can tell through the lens there, Steve, but I'll take your word for it.
I'll take the word of the graphic. Not that they're always right, but Cunego did make a move yesterday, responding to attack from Ruano of Androni. And then Cunego kind of got lost out there in no man's land by himself, was eventually picked up by the peloton.
Rabatini, this is an impressive descent. I mean, just that S-curve right there. He came in a little hot to the left, had a bad line into the right-hander, and still just cleaned it very nicely.
A lot of the Italians live in this region of Italy, in the north, around Lake Como, the Lombardia region. Rabatini does a lot of training up here, so they know these roads, they know what it's all about. They've been riding on them for the majority of their lives, and many times they ride in the rain. In fact, the Giro Lombardia in the fall every year is often plagued by bad weather, so this is not foreign territory, but still it's never easy. I mean, you can train and race on wet roads as much as you want, but it doesn't make it any more or less dangerous in subsequent times when you do it.
And as you watch Rabatini here, he's not going nearly as fast as he would be if this were dry. That's a guarantee. But you notice how he's staying loose through the corners. He's not getting stiff. As soon as you get rigid into a corner that's wet, you're in trouble, especially in the rain. He's just very comfortable on the bike and just kind of surfing that bike through the corners.
Now, as far as his tactics and this strategy for today, what's your assessment? Because he went clear by himself after dropping Bonifon on the first of 4 climbs on a bad weather day. So what was he thinking going in?
Well, let's look at the team. The team has nobody even close to the general classification hunt. He's the highest placed guy, and he's 50 minutes down. So he's Pinotti here, waving the motorcycle out of the way. Pinotti is not going to take the risk that Rabatini is on this descent, that's for sure. But at any rate, a little bit of gesticulation as well. But I think for Rabatini, this is just an opportunity to try something for that team that's been hampered by losing Filippo Pozzato. And I still don't think he's got much of a chance at all at staying away, but he's going to get a ton of publicity for himself and his team.
Coming through the town for the start of the next climb. Matteo Carrara, the Italian, leading him through for Bacon Soleil. He was the rider who put the newspaper in his vest for a short time on the descent. And still several minutes behind Rabatini, our leader, as they head towards the Category 3. Probably the easiest of the 4 climbs on the day, although nothing's truly easy on a stage like today. This is the Damiano Cunego group. He's number 2 up there in the pink and blue for Lampre. Got a teammate with him here.
Maybe Diego Ulisi, I think it is. Ulisi picking up a stage win last year, narrowly out-sprinting Giovanni Visconti. And Visconti, one of the other big names that retired today.
It looks like Guillaume Bonifant in the brown for AG2R. They're picking him up. Earlier, he was at the front of the race with Rabatini. Those two had a lead together of 8 minutes. But then Rabatini dropped Bonifant. He's been losing time since, now scooped up by the chase group here.
I gotta say, this chase group is riding really hard right now. They're a little bit scattered and they don't have it lined up, but that's partly because of the rain and the spray coming up off the wheel in front of you. But still, they are going. There's no doubt about it.
Rabatini, still a pretty steady cadence. 5:22 ahead, so he's not losing time to the chasers. And they're not really losing or gaining time on the peloton. Everything is pretty much holding steady in terms of the math here.
Very small changes in these gaps. 66.6K to go.
Stefano Perazzi is the rider at the back end in the blue jersey for Colnago. And his team leader, Domenico Pozzovivo, who won a stage several days ago in the Media Mountain, says that today might be a day that he could potentially win if he's near the front. He likes the profile, doesn't mind the bad weather, and his teammate Perazzi is now up the road in the chase group. At the bottom of the screen in a gray rain jacket, it's the overall race leader, and that is Ryder Hesjedal of Garmin-Barracuda near the front of the main field. It's now 9:42 behind our leader Matteo Rabatini with 60 kilometers left to go. And we are now joined by Hesjedal's team leader in the team car at the Giro, Charlie Wegelius of Garmin-Barracuda. Charlie, thanks for taking the time to visit with us. And first off, how is Ryder feeling today about his position in the race and his chances of holding on to the pink jersey on a very difficult day?
Well, first of all, hello to everybody. And obviously, Ryder was extremely pleased to get back the jersey because even though he perhaps didn't show it in a particularly public way, he was quite sad to lose it. So I think he showed already on the climb yesterday that it's a great condition, but he still doesn't remain one of the top favorites for the race. I think that's still Ivan Basso and Michele Scarponi. So we're pleased with the situation we're in, and he's obviously got a good condition, and we're going to do everything we can to support him.
Charlie, I'm wondering, did you have Christian Vande Velde sit up a little bit at the finish yesterday because you knew you were going to need some of his energy today?
Well, to be quite honest, you know, that's not the kind of instruction that Christian needs to receive from the car because he's so experienced. And he's so, you know, he's such a good rider and a good professional that that's something that he did entirely automatically because he knows his job inside out.
What about today's stage in particular? How do you expect this to unfold the rest of the way, still with 3 climbs to go and the weather being what it is?
Yeah, I'm sure that the weather is a big factor on a stage like today, because the riders, they're already very tired after 2 weeks of racing and their immune system's already on the floor. So that's going to add an extra difficulty to the race, and obviously it adds more difficulty to the downhill sections. And Ivan Basso is a particularly weak descender. So I think we'll see his team controlling the race more to try and prevent him losing any time on the downhills.
And on the alternate to that, Hesjedal seems to thrive in nasty conditions. And you told me yesterday after the stage finish, as we're looking at Rabatini almost going off the road, off the front by himself, but you told me yesterday that you had never really seen Hesjedal attack like that and ride that aggressively, and that was something new for you. What do you think brought that out in Ryder yesterday?
Well, I mean, as far as the conditions are concerned, I think that Ryder's really going to be in his element due to his mountain biking background. And I think that the aggressive side of Ryder that we're seeing in the race is purely a result of the fact that he's got a good condition. You know, I mean, my ex-teammate, Cadel Evans, was often criticized for not attacking enough in races, but you attack when you're feeling good. So I think that, you know, it's more down to that. So He's feeling confident, and he's been riding well for a long time. So I think that's the new version of rider that we're seeing.
Charlie, are you worried about any particular rider today that could be a threat to Hejdahl? Worried about particular attacks at one point or another?
No, because as I said, we really consider other riders to be the main people with the responsibility of the race on their shoulders. And in many ways, Garmin Barracuda already has a lot of hay in the barn. We've done a lot of good results in this race. And, we've got absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain, and many other teams, it's their race to lose. So, we're going to ride our own race with Ryder and get the best out of him as we can, and, we're not going to look at any specific rivals.
Let's talk just a little bit about Ryder's preparation. He knew he was coming into the Giro as the team leader, so he actually didn't focus as much on the classics and then take some rest and then try and get back up for the Giro. He actually built through the classics and built all the way into the Giro. Is that correct?
Yeah, for Ryder it was a completely new approach to planning his season, because he's ridden successfully the Tour de France program with the classics for many years, which involved having a pause just after Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and we asked him in November to do the Giro, and it's a project that he was obviously immediately enthusiastic about, and it was a new way to ride the season for him, because he had a slower build-up and then no pause after the classics, clearly, and then went straight into the Giro. But I think we can all see that it's bearing fruits.
All right, Charlie Wegelius of Garmin Barracuda, thanks very much for joining us from the team car. I know you have a lot going on with Ryder Hejdahl, and also a big congratulations, because you arrived late at the Giro this year because of the birth of your son. So congratulations on the new baby boy as well.
Yep. Thanks very much.
All right, so he's in the team car. They are behind the field. This is the man at the very front, Matteo Rabottini, and this is where we are, just about to start the second climb of the day with 55.5 kilometers left to go. Rabottini leading the chase group by just over 5 minutes. He's now almost 10 minutes ahead of the pink jersey contingent, and in that chase group, it's Damiano Cunego of Lampre, who is only down 2:43 on the pink jersey, meaning that he is now the virtual leader of the race on the road.
By a long shot, in fact. And, I think it's very interesting to hear Wegelius. He's pretty calm about this whole thing. He's not freaking out that today is an insane day. He knows that his team is, though it's had great results, this is Ryder's fourth day in pink, he knows that the real weight to control this race is on the leaders of some other teams and their squads. And so Ryder Hejdahl is playing off of that.
But at the same time, you have to believe, even though they may not say it publicly, that there is some concern, because you don't want to lose the pink jersey. You want to protect it, but knowing that you might be at a disadvantage has to be an issue.
And they're at a fairly severe disadvantage right now with this breakaway with Cunego in it at 2:43 down. I mean, this has the makings of a day that turns the general classification upside down. We saw it immediately when we came on the air, and look at this. Cunego 150 into the pink right now with this breakaway. So 150, that's not actually huge, and it's still going to have a lot of racing to play out. But we knew it when we first came on. A lot of chaos today with the rain, all the climbs. The rain is let up. That's nicer for everybody.
Still with 3 climbs left to go, so there is time for Hejdahl and the other GC contenders in the peloton to take back that time. But it's something to take note of, because Cunego has ridden himself into the virtual lead on the road here of stage number 15. Under 55 kilometers left to go, and starting climb number 2 of a 4-climb stage at the Giro d'Italia. Images are from much earlier. That was on the first climb, just showing what the riders are doing to try and combat the weather. 53 left to go for our leader, who's holding on to his margin over the chasers. You got to give Matteo Rabottini a lot of credit. He is not losing ground to a much larger chasing group, 5:17 ahead. His lead has swelled to the peloton, almost 10 minutes. But the big story is happening in the chasing group, where Damiano Cunego is the virtual race leader Started the day 2:43 behind Ryder Hesjedal, but as you can see with the numbers, he has more than that amount of time out there on the road right now. And this is Rabatini, our leader, at the head of the race.
Picked up a stage win at the Presidential Tour of Turkey last year, stage 5, out sprinting Efimkin, the defending champion of that race. This is Marco Pinotti. Crashed on that descent. I believe he is behind that chasing group with Cunego and in front of the peloton. He's just stuck out here in no man's land.
Hard spot to be in, especially after the crash. Might be feeling it. The effects are really wearing on him. And Cunego inspired by the fact that he is turning the GC race upside down right now.
And if you look at the big picture, not only is Cunego threatening to ride himself into pink, but that means back here in the peloton, you're not going to see any Lampre for Michele Scarponi. So now the chase is being shared by Liquigas Cannondale and Garmin Barracuda, and it looks like some of the Astana men are coming up in there as well.
Looks like Liquigas Cannondale also forcing the hand of Garmin Barracuda to give them some help at the front. They've done so much of the heavy lifting over the course of the entire Giro to bring back breakaways that they're finally saying, hey, you've got the pink jersey. You want to hold it, you help.
There's a lot of bluffing that goes on in the peloton, a lot of discussion. Sometimes friendships are taken into account, and you don't want to have enemies in the field, that's for sure.
It's also part of the chess game and the interesting dynamics that unfold in a race like this, because even though Basso has never worn the pink jersey at this year's race, everybody else knows, including Garmin Barracuda and Ryder Hesjedal. They realize that he's a big player and that he could win this thing after the full 3 weeks, so they're going to make him work at the front, make his team help out to control the race. So it's not just about the pink jersey team doing the work, it's about the other teams of the top contenders also knowing that they're playing the long game, and if they want to put themselves in position for a run at the top step of the podium, they got to work.
Have a nice look here at Rabatini's belly. You can see how it distends with every breath. Called belly breathing. It's sort of an unusual term, but basically you're letting your diaphragm just hang out so your lungs can really fill up with a deep breath.
This is the Cunego chase group, just over 5 minutes back of Rabatini, whose lead is almost up to 10 minutes now on the peloton. And on this climb, the category 3, known as the Forcella di Burra, an 11K climb averaging just over 4% with a maximum slope of 12%. Probably the easiest of the 4 climbs today. They went over the hardest first to category 1. Now this Cat 3 followed by successive Cat 2s that also includes a summit finish.
And what makes bike racing so interesting to me is the fact that the course, though we can say one climb is harder than another, it really is all dictated by the riders. And the final climb is always going to be harder than that first climb because the race is so critical on the final climb. Any gaps that come open on that final climb, there's no time to close them down. So they get hit really hard on the big first climb, and then they get hit even harder on the finishing climb.
Cunego leading that chase group, number 2, now pulling off to the right-hand side along the guardrail. Yeah, you really start with the arithmetic on the climbs. You look at the numbers, the severity of the slopes, the length of the climb. But really it comes down to how things are positioned in the race when the riders get to those climbs. As Rabatini now is almost 50 kilometers left to go in the stage. His lead holding steady on the chasers at over 5 minutes, but it's going up to the peloton north of 10 minutes now.
Peloton does not want to see much more north at this point. They're way up in the north of the country, the weather sucks, and the break's getting huge.
This is almost the largest break we've seen at this year's Giro d'Italia. Matteo Rabatini having some kind of day so far at the Giro. As Pinotti is just about back up to that pretty healthy group of chasers here.
I actually thought that he was not going to make it back up to this group, honestly, Steve. When he was back there for so long behind the group after his crash, typically in that situation you end up sitting up and getting caught by the peloton, but he has fought his way back up here. A great ride by Marco Pinotti.
And the team leader for the BMC squad that got off to a strong start with Taylor Phinney winning the individual time trial on stage 1 and holding the pink jersey for a few days.
That's Gustav Larsson there, middle of your screen. Chiruka in the...
Pinotti, GC leader for BMC, a team that also says they'd like to get a stage win with Alessandro Ballan at some point in this year's Giro. Ballan making his Giro debut this year at the age of 32. On the Cat 3 with a couple of Cat 2s still to go. This is the Forcella di Burra climb that'll summit with 44.6 kilometers left to go to the end of the stage. Averaging just over 4% with a max slope of 12. Cunego, virtual leader of the race, and that gap is holding steady now. 147 over Ryder Hesjedal, who is wearing the pink jersey for the second time at this year's race. Fourth day altogether for the Canadian. He lost it on stage 10 when Rodriguez took it with the finish into the town of Assisi. Got it back yesterday when Hesjedal erased a 17-second gap to Rodriguez on the summit finish in Cervinia. Now Rodriguez trailing Ryder Hesjedal by 9 seconds at the top of the GC on stage 15, but the virtual standings on the road now have Cunego in the lead. Switchbacks all day long. And in fact, our final climb of the day, leading up to the summit finish at Recanelli, 15 switchbacks on narrow roads.
Look at this chase group coming apart right now as a lot of guys testing. This is Matteo Carrara, Sella. That's Evgeny Petrov, the Astana man. Remember a couple of seasons ago in 2010, he was the winner in that big breakaway group of over 50 riders that went clear on a really nasty day that took a lot of time out of the field.
And Astana has two guys positioned near the top of the GC, both Paulo Tirolongo and Roman Kreuziger. Tirolongo, the only other guy outside of Joaquim Rodriguez who was in a minute of Ryder Hesjedal at the top of the standings.
Rabatini comes from a long line of cycling professionals. In fact, his father won the 1986 Tirreno Adriatico.
Cunego, one of the three former Giro winners in this year's race, along with Basso and Cunego's teammate Michele Scarponi. It's been a while since Cunego's victory. A lot has changed in his career, and he's become more of a one-day racer since that Giro victory, which was his only Grand Tour win. But he's still a guy who hasn't really settled on one thing or another. It's not like he's just a true one-day racer, because he can do a three-week race, but he's kind of just been in that no man's land the last few years.
He's like just below the podium, but he's top 10 overall. Right. He can win stages, but he can't seem to win the overall. And it's been frustrating for Cunego. He's actually said at certain times, that's it. You know, I'm not even going to think about it anymore. But then he has a good Grand Tour, and he starts riding like he's going to think about it some more.
As we head to the summit for our leader, Matteo Rabatini, who's had a lot of conversation with the team car. And this was earlier when they were showing the profile of the Cat 3. Now he's almost to the top of it. This was earlier on the lower slopes of the climb.
Cashinto, that director, giving him all the information he needs. Ulisi pulling off. Amador, yesterday's winner, back to the front. The only Costa Rican ever to win a stage in a Grand Tour. His first professional win. It was like watching three guys that were so tired they could barely turn the pedals sprinted out. Barta jumped first, thinking he had something more than he did, and his legs just gave out on him.
Yeah, Amador on that Movistar team that has 2 stage wins. Francisco Ventoso also won a sprint earlier in the race, and one of 3 teams now that have multiple stage wins. You have Movistar, Androni, and of course Team Sky with Cavendish in his 3 individual stage wins. Rabatini still over 5 minutes on the Chasers and over 9 minutes on the pink jersey. Under 50K left to go, and inside of 2K to the summit of our second climb. Peloton stretched out.
Rabatini still only 24 years of age, a young guy. He's got a big career ahead of him.
Cannondale and Garmin-Barracuda, the 2 teams at the front of the field. Lamprey, the team in the pink and blue, behind them. Also a few Astana riders mixed in there, the teams you would expect to be at the front. Get a lot of time to pull back here. This Liquigas Cannondale team, one of the strongest teams in terms of climbers here at this year's race, and they're built to do exactly what they have been doing. Ride tempo at the front on the mountain stages to control the race and discourage attacks. Inside of a K now for Rabatini. And there it is, the top of the climb. So he is at the midway point of the climbing on stage 15. 2 climbs down, 2 to go, and 45K remaining.
In fact, they had it down below 5 minutes. Now it's back up to 5:14. Larson on the front is a smoking descender on his TT bike, but on a wet road like this, I don't know if he's willing to take quite as many chances.
Peloton with the pink jersey. Back end of the field. These riders on this small descent that leads into that 3rd climb, which is category 2. Scarponi, he saw his teammate Cunego go up the road yesterday and said that he was fine with it. Part of the plan, didn't worry about any sort of dissension within the team. He's seen Cunego go into the virtual race lead today, although that is sort of evaporating. What do you think Scarponi is now making of what Cunego's been able to do today and how that impacts his position as the team leader and the team of Lamprey itself?
Oh, he's stoked. Great to have Cunego up the road in that chasing group. It puts pressure on the other guys. Scarponi gets to sit back and relax. His team gets to relax. It's a big deal in a race like this when you have a teammate take the pressure off your team, especially when you're one of the favorites. Oh, man. Rabatini, I get a little scared watching him go around the corners sometimes. Even though he seems so comfortable, when you see that guardrail right there lurking and he's getting pretty close, you just got to hope that he holds it together.
35K left for our lone leader. Now, given Cunego's pedigree, the fact that he has won a Giro, is there any thought, maybe even in the back of Scarponi's mind, that he becomes a threat to him for a general classification leadership role at this race?
I just don't see it. I don't feel it. I don't see it. I think that Cunego's goals lie later in the season. He wants to do well at the Tour de France, and he has come into this race in a supporting role. He stated it. He stated he's after stage wins. Today may be a great opportunity for him to get a stage win.
Liquigas Cannondale, the team with 4 riders in the green at the front. 30K to go for Perazzi. He's the second man on the road behind Rabatini. The attack from that large chasing group that includes Damiano Cunego, and that group is now sort of split up. Guys scattered all over the road. Perazzi, the man just over 4 minutes behind Rabatini, as he has surged clear on these narrow roads.
Here's where it gets really tiny. The field's still back on some bigger roads, but just up ahead, where the front men of the race are, it is 1 lane.
Back end of the field. Pretty large group in the peloton. For the 3rd climb of the day, still 1 more to go. I
think this is Jack Bauer who's on the front there for Garmin-Barracuda. He's new to the team this year. Picked up a stage win, very nicely done in a field sprint last year at the Tour of Utah, but he's come over to the squad. He's a big helper for them, a lot of horsepower. Jack Bauer.
Nobody beats Jack Bauer. Probably got Chloe back at CTU sending information to his personal device, so he knows exactly what he needs to do at the front of the field.
And he's got it strung out, that's for sure.
30K left for the field that is stretched out single file.
And now getting back into the climb. So always tough on the legs, especially on a cold day. When you have a little descent, the legs kind of get sleepy. They kind of, you're not pushing, so you're not in the rhythm, and then you have to start climbing again, and your legs feel awful.
So just to reset, that is our leader down there in the yellow, Matteo Rabatini. He's been off the front almost all day. Been over the top of all the climbs by himself. Stefano Perazzi from Colnago is the second man on the road, still several minutes behind Rabatini. And this is back at the front end of the field. Liquigas Cannondale riding for Ivan Basso. And last check, more than 7 minutes behind Rabatini. They are on the penultimate climb of the day. Still one more Cat 2 and a summit finish coming up at the end. Not going to sit with a family, friends, or anybody else here. He's going to go over the summit of the third climb as the leader. Now one climb left to go. This massive effort from the Italian from Farnese Vini, who now has just about 25 kilometers left to go on stage 15. Rabatini for Farnese Vini, leading by 3 minutes on the first chase group, coming up on the final 20 kilometers. If he stays away and wins this stage, he will have gone over 40 kilometers of climbing virtually by himself today on stage 15.
It's just amazing. And a big part of his success has been the way he has tackled this course. He's been super smooth on the descents, hasn't wasted much energy by messing up in the corners and having to scrub off a lot of speed and then re-accelerate. He's been very fluid on the descents. And I hate watching guys tuck like that when they put the seat right up in their belly, but he got back on the saddle. He's also been very smooth on the climbs, not over-gearing.
Looks like Cunego for Lampre here with an attack from the chase group. Maybe just gaining some separation on the descent, perhaps.
3:02 behind Rabatini. I'm starting to feel like this is Rabatini's race to lose.
Now here he is on the very narrow and technical descent. That final climb doesn't start until we get inside of 8K from the finish, so quite a ways away, but still, it's up and down, a lot of undulation and rolling terrain, a lot of back and forth with corners like this.
And if these time gaps are correct, Cunego has lost the virtual Maglia Rosa right now. It's hanging in the balance. Now he's just got it back. But it's the way it is right now, he's right on that threshold.
Here comes the field through that area where we just saw Cunego a moment ago. So it looks like they're taking back more time. And Cunego now really starting to force the pace. This is much more than the typical gap you see that opens up on a descent. Cunego is really riding here.
Cunego, I think, realizing that he had to go from further out if he was going to have any chance of catching Rabatini. And look at this. He is pulling back some time on Rabatini right now. Seriously, just in the last few moments, we've seen the time go down by 20 seconds between them.
Looks like the other chasers and things fracturing because of Cunego's pace off the front.
This is Cunego with a foot out, hot footing it around the corner. Maybe that was not Cunego, but it sure looked like it.
A very tight corner on the descent. So the Italian, Damiano Cunego, 2:44 behind Matteo Rabatini.
Chiruka here doing damage control, trying to get back up to the other guys.
Ryder Hejdahl in that gray slicker over the pink jersey, has the pink helmet. He's behind Michele Scarpone, the rider in the pink and blue for Lampre. And this is near the front of the field with Astana now doing the work that Liquigas Cannondale was doing so much of leading up the climb. Cunego here on the chase. Second man on the road.
Cunego loves the descents. He's always been great at them. It's a nice calling card to have because guys that are not smooth on the descents actually cannot get the rest you can get if you're really fluid. Oh, Rabatini is down.
Oh, the first big mistake for Matteo Rabatini, our leader, crashing on the descent. The wet roads all day long. He survived until now.
He's almost done with the descents, but now he's got to get his feet back, clicked in the pedals. Notice he's still working on both of them. It's very hard to control your bike when you're not clipped in. And here we go, this left-hander. Down, but not out. Back on the bike.
And rear wheel just went out from underneath him.
He's probably on the brakes just a little bit, came into it a little bit hot. For the Italian spectators, they know exactly what to do.
Here's Cunego. Chasing. How much time has he put into Rabatini? 17K left. And how much has that unsettled Matteo Rabatini, who's been so steady and so strong at the front of this stage all day long?
It's exactly what Rabatini did not need. He has been so good on the descents. Now he's just got to get his mental composure back. Luca Shinto coming up in the car. He's going to try and get him to calm down and tell him it's still okay. You still have 2.5 minutes on Damiano. Keep your head straight. You can still get this done.
Other chasers that Cunego has dropped. So 16.5 kilometers now left to go for Matteo Rabatini. Boy, remember, on the descent to the Cap 1 and the other climbs that he's come off of today, he's been so good. He's been so fast and really charging into the descents and handling them so well. And that was the first time he's had an issue.
Well, that's what happens when you're pushing the limit for so long. It's very easy to just misjudge one corner. Chasing group not working well together. Cunego saying, come on, guys. Not only do we want to go for the stage here, but we want to fend off that main field, what's left of it, because they are coming up. So Van de Velde has made it up to this group with Hejdahl. Van de Velde will be critical to help keep things together a little bit for Hejdahl. A sketchy corner there by Rabatini. He should have been on the inside, but he overshot it and had a terrible line through it.
This is the start of the final climb. The Category 2 Resinelli, 7.8 kilometers in length. Its maximum of 12% will come with 7K left to go, so it's pretty quickly that it comes up here. John Gaudret, number 11 for AG2R, still with the GC Riders, taking off the rain jacket. Long line of GC contenders chasing this group that is in pursuit of Matteo Rabatini. So this is the second group on the road. Again, it's Damiano Cunego, Amos Chiruka in the orange, Lasada for Katusha, Amador for Movistar in the dark colors, and at the back in the light blue, Stefano Perazzi.
Cunego is definitely out of the virtual pink jersey at this point, but it still looks like he's dreaming of a stage win. But I think for anybody to have a shot at this, Rabatini is going to have to come apart in this final 7.5 kilometers.
All right, now the field at the 10K banner, over 4 minutes behind Rabatini. So they're still a few kilometers away from the start of the climb.
And it is going in the peloton. We have seen a concerted effort here by Katusha, or excuse me, Astana. And there's Tirolongo sitting last in the line.
Andre Amador in this small 5-man chase group. Still 2.5 minutes behind Matteo Rabatini. At about 9. And they're just about a minute behind the Cunego chase group. That's Andre Amador, who was part of the chasers earlier from Movistar. He's been swept up.
No real surprise there. His legs have to feel like they belong to somebody else right now. Rabatini, he's looking pretty tired as well. This is the first time I've really been concerned about him showing the fatigue of being out there all day. Lasada now attacking Cunego.
And Chiruka as well. First time Lasada has been on the move. Accelerating. Try and narrowed this gap that's still north of 2 minutes to our leader. Of course, Losada, part of that Katusha team that contains Joaquin Rodriguez, who's in second on the GC. Now it's Chiruka just behind him. Cunego struggling to stay close. So 2 minutes from our leader to the Cunego group. An additional 1 minute back to this group of the GC collection. Ivan Basso, second wheel, riding on his home roads today in Lombardia. Then Kreuziger, Tirolongo, and the pink jersey of Hejdahl.
And when you see Schmid on the front taking these monster poles on these late climbs, that's why he's such an important domestique for Ivan Basso. Schmid, Martinelli saying if Kreuziger's going to win this thing, it's going to take more than one attack. But Basso is still back in it here on the front.
What's made it hard for the attacks is the pace that Liquigas Cannondale has been setting to
Look at
discourage
that.
those attacks.
The only man covering him is Kreuziger.
And there is Kreuziger riding to the front now.
Tirolongo closing it up.
It's like Sergio A now making his way up there as well for Team Sky. Scarpone. The pink jersey of Hejdahl is still there. This is Losada, who has Chiruka behind him in the orange, and then Perazzi a little further back.
Oh, Scarpone going.
Now Michele Scarpone, the first of the GC riders to accelerate here inside of the final 2K. Basso is right behind him, then Rodriguez is third. So Michele Scarpone trying to take back some time in the closing kilometers on the summit finish. Basso riding steady. Rodriguez going by him. And there's Cunego.
Yeah, Cunego has done a great job setting up Scarpone today. Now Scarpone's taking matters into his own hands.
So Cunego has been caught. Matteo Rabatini still at the front of the race, though. This is Losada, the second man on the road. And now the battle in the general classification, led by Michele Scarpone.
Then Rodriguez, then Now, then Basso.
Here's the pink jersey. Where is rider Hejdahl? Again, Rodriguez starts the day 9 seconds behind him. A kilometer and a half left to go. There is Hejdahl just about to go around the turn, but a gap has formed between Hejdahl and the front of this GC group.
He's in a little bit of trouble, no doubt about it, as this man very close to what will be a sweet victory.
The man behind him, Losada for Katusha, part of the chasing group, attacking late. But it looks like just running out of time. And the GC battle, there goes Rodriguez around Scarpone. Joaquin Rodriguez looking to take back the pink jersey today.
It's a great type of finish for Rodriguez. Not a super long grinding climb, steeper, and he's got that punch.
And he's got his teammate ahead of him as well. Rodriguez accelerating.
Scarpone trying to close it down. He's got Now there, and then a couple of bike lengths back. Basso in a little bit of trouble, but dieseling it back up.
Joaquin Rodriguez trailing Hejdahl by 9 seconds, but he has dropped the Canadian. He's also dropped Now, Scarpone, and Basso. And that's 1 kilometer left to go for Matteo Rabatini, the 24-year-old Italian from Pescara, Italy. This is Losada, who's the second man on the road, number 116. And here comes Rodriguez past the other chase. Perazzi.
Oh, Rodriguez is flying up this mountain, and there he goes.
So he passes Perazzi. He's now third on the road behind his teammate Losada, who is behind Matteo Rabatini, the leader.
This is coming down to be something just like yesterday. The breakaway holding on to a slimmer and slimmer margin as Rodriguez charging up the road.
After over 5 hours, the pink jersey is nowhere in sight. That's Scarpone, Basso, and Now. And now here's Rodriguez coming up to the back of his teammate Losada, who can pace him.
Here we go. Losada 800 meters to go. He will absolutely bury himself for Rodriguez at this point.
Joaquin Rodriguez tried to respond to the acceleration of Ryder Hesjedal yesterday, but could not. He lost the pink jersey, but now poised to take it back just 24 hours later.
And that's all Losada can do. It's lights out for him. Perito, second on the road, and he's got glory in sight, back into pink.
But how about this performance from Matteo Rabatini? The Italian Tifosi welcoming him home.
And is he going to make it in front of Rodriguez? What is the gap? There he is!
Check out the acceleration now, Rodriguez!
Rodriguez is going to get him!
Look at him close the gap just that quickly in the final 400 meters after a spectacular day from Rabatini, and now he is caught.
Oh, my heart goes out to Rabatini. He will not be able to do anything. Rodriguez back into pink.
Now, there are no time bonuses. This is not a situation where Joaquin Rodriguez is going to get that 20-second boost, but he is going to have a big gap. He has passed Matteo Rabatini here.
Rabatini holding tough. Amazing that he can even sit on the wheel of Perito inside the final 200 meters now.
For so long, he was so remarkable. Looking for his first ever Grand Tour stage win. Matteo Rabatini by himself for the better part of 40 kilometers of climbing.
And
Now
look at
trying
him!
to cover
Look at
up
him!
Perito.
Yes! Go Rabatini! Yes!
A second win with 25 meters to go. Perito lets him take it. Matteo Rabatini, spectacular at the finish of stage 15. What a finish.
Unreal finale there. Rodriguez back into pink. Rabatini, what a hero today.
Other GC riders losing time. That's Losada from Katusha. Then Michele Scarponi is going to come in. Sergio Henao just ahead of him. Then Basso.
And where is pink?
Roman Kreuziger crosses over.
So there's a big shakeup here. Lots of changes. There's Hesjedal.
Ryder Hesjedal, one day after taking the pink jersey for the second time, will lose it on the summit finish of Resenelli.
Wow.
Another huge day in the mountains and another huge performance. Wow. Here comes Tiralongo, who was near the front for a while for Astana. Boy, oh boy. Matteo Rabatini the victory. Joaquin Rodriguez back into the overall race lead. What a finish it was. Matteo Rabatini, after being passed by Joaquin Rodriguez, surged back in front to win his first ever Grand Tour stage after the end of an incredible 15th day of racing.
Phenomenal, considering nobody gets on the wheel of Rodriguez when they've been off the front all day and he comes by you in the finale like that. But Rabatini, here he is, fighting around that final corner. I think Rodriguez had to be shocked to see the tenacity of the young Italian there.
Rodriguez may have let him enjoy the moment because there were no time bonuses at the line. And hey, sometimes you got to reward a guy even though he is a competitor. Here's the new general classification after 15 days at the Giro. Joaquin Rodriguez back into the race lead, now by 30 seconds over Ryder Hesjedal. Ivan Basso is third at 1:22 behind, as that pink jersey yo-yoing back and forth between J-Rod and Hesjedal these last few days. Rodriguez slipping into the Maglia Rosa, now for the second time at this year's race.
He did what he needed to do late in the race. That punchy kick he has, he's so good at it when he hits it on the shorter, steeper climbs.
And there was a 10-man breakaway that has a lead of just over 10 minutes with just under 60 kilometers left to go on what is a partly cloudy day in northern Italy. It rained earlier, and there is also a chance of rain at the finish. Steve Schlanger alongside Todd Gogulski. It is the first day after the second and final rest day of the Giro and the first of the final 6 days of racing here at the 95th edition of the Italian Grand Tour.
This is a day that's relatively flat on a very tough final week in the mountains for the guys. They have let a large group get up the road, and it looks very likely as though that group will stay away to contest the finish today.
There are no categorized climbs on today's stage, but the road does go steadily uphill towards the finish. So there is some climbing involved, and it's been a very fast race so far. In fact, the average speed of the first hour was over 30 miles per hour. So the guys riding fast coming out of the rest day.
Coming out of that rest day, everybody wanted to get in the break. They knew that today was the perfect day to get a non-threatening general classification group of riders up the road and have the field let them go. So everybody wanted to be in it. It made for a frenetic first hour, but now things have settled down in the field, and the breakaway is working smoothly to extend its lead.
Joaquin Rodriguez of Katusha is the leader of the race. He's wearing the pink jersey for the second time after taking it from Ryder Hesjedal at the end of stage number 15.
And this is our breakaway, large group of men once again that we've been mentioning. That's Steph Clement for Rabobank, and everybody rolling through up here, and I'm sure they can already taste the chance that it looks like the field is giving them to stay away.
So here are the riders at the head of the peloton: Lampre, Movistar, and Astana. And we are underway. The flight north in Italy continues. Stage 16. Stage 16 live at the Giro d'Italia on Universal Sports. In the far north of Italy today, it is the day after the second rest day, and the peloton just over 10 minutes back of a 10-man breakaway. The northern section of Italy heading northeast today, right up close to the Austrian border.
The thing about today is everybody is looking forward, or maybe scared, of the racing coming up later this week. 107 miles, no rated climbs, slightly uphill through the valley with a couple of smaller climbs, but nothing is rated. And then in the final 4 kilometers, it kicks up sharply into the double digits, some pave, and Rodriguez may try and get a little more time because he needs it.
And here is the general classification coming out of the rest day. Joaquin Rodriguez, a half-minute lead on Ryder Hesjedal, but the other top challengers all within a minute and a half. And remember, the 3 hardest days of this year's race are still to come, so those deficits could mean nothing here in the next few days of racing that are coming up. And check out what today and the rest of this final week look like. A lot of jagged points on those graphs, and today, again, no categorized climbs, but see how it steadily rises uphill all the way to the finish.
This is a perfect day for a breakaway to stay away when there's no major mountains to create big separation amongst the general classification men, and there are big mountains tomorrow and later this week, so the GC men will probably sit back a little today.
This is the peloton, just over 10 minutes behind our 10-man breakaway as they all come up on the final 50 kilometers of racing on stage number 16. The team in the white is Française Deja. The team in the light blue and white behind them, Astana. And the pink line shows you where the riders are right now. Again, steadily going uphill on this 173-kilometer stage. It's been very fast in the race so far. Guys feeling fresh and frisky coming out of the rest day. But even so, it took a while for this breakaway to get established. It was well over after an hour into the race before the 10 riders who are now in the break formed this move. 10 riders from 10 different teams in the day's signature breakaway today at the Giro. And that is the Farnese Vini rider in the yellow, Luca Mazzanti in the move, the oldest rider in the race at 38 years of age.
Well, he's in the perfect place to be on a day like this. 2 days ago, the last stage we had before the rest day, stage number 15, his teammate Rabobank had a spectacular ride to win on that mountaintop finish.
He survived over all 4 of the climbs, never surrendered much time to the chasers, and was caught by Joaquin Rodriguez at the very end, but still managed to hang on to get the stage win. As far as individual performances at a Grand Tour, hard to remember one as tremendous as what Rabatini pulled off on stage 15.
It was truly phenomenal to see him for more than an hour holding around a 3-minute to 3.5-minute advantage over a 9-rider chase group with Cunego and a bunch of other powerhouse riders, and they just couldn't close it down on him.
He became the 7th different first-time Grand Tour stage winner at this year's race, as the Giro often becomes a coming-out party for riders with potential who finally do something spectacular like Rabatini did the other day.
Now, I don't see the guys holding on to the Garibaldi very often, the race book, looking at the stage. This is, that is the book that has everything, but it's about 300 pages in length. Usually you'll just have a little map in your pocket.
That's the book that we have. So he's looking at the same thing.
He's looking at the big book today. Apparently, the one page wasn't good enough.
Well, the book also has recommendations for dinner every night. So I wonder if he was checking out the profile or what he's going to have for his appetizer this evening at dinner.
Maybe he's looking forward to the next few days, trying to decide how deep he's going to go today. But actually, if he's on the break, he's all in today.
You see how steep the terrain is. This is up near the Dolomites, but they don't actually go up the big climbs today. They're essentially riding around the perimeter of the Dolomites through South Tyrol up into the German-speaking region of northern Italy, and they'll come up right next to the Austrian border at the end of today's stage. It's about as slow a pace as you could get at the front end of the field. No interest right now in bringing back the breakaway. Alessandro Androne in the breakaway.
Colombians have been very good. A now 4th on the summit finish on stage 15, and Mark Cavendish now getting fully loaded here with bottles.
Well, Cav has already won 3 stages of this year's race, and he really has one more opportunity coming up on Thursday, the last opportunity for the sprinters to really pick up a stage win. And I gotta say, he's one of the last true sprinters remaining in the race. We've had so many pull out to this point.
Yep, those guys do not like these type of weeks worth of profiles. A lot of people speculated coming into the race that Cavendish would be out. As his intention to ride it all the way and keep that red sprinter's jersey all the way into Milan.
40K and 11.5 minutes for the 10-man breakaway, as Cavendish works his way back up through the field to supply bottles for the rest of his team's Sky lads.
And that tells you right now that his team, that's Kristoff on the right, the Norwegian national champion there, handing bottles off to his Katusha squad. Katusha's a tough team because they have so many national champions, you can't really tell what their real jersey looks like. But the real jersey for Katusha is mostly red. I'll just let you know that. The other guys with all the white, they're national road champions.
10-man breakaway going under the 40K left to go banner, as they work their way towards the finishing town in the far north of Italy today.
So one thing I can definitely tell you is Sky must feel that the finish is definitely too hard for Cavendish because they got him bringing up bottles. And some people were wondering, would the sprinters be able to contest today? And I think not. I think the climb is too hard at the end. Even though it's short, it's in the final 4K. It's got some 12%. And Rodriguez, he's probably going to want to try and light it up and pick up a few more precious seconds in the general classification.
The 12th century Castello di Trosburg, perched on the hill just above where the riders are rolling through, above the village of Barbiano. Take your pick. Castles all along the Giro route this year. And I tell you what, in northern Italy, the scenery is as spectacular to ride your bike as any place in the world. You got a lot of the hilltop towns. You have castles like this that are sitting on top of some of the big mountains. I always wonder how they build them, but they stand the test of time, hundreds and hundreds of years. And now back with our 10-man breakaway here, and everybody rolling through. 11.5 minutes up the road from the field. Here is the yellow jersey of Farnese Vini's Luca Mazzanti, who actually won a stage of the Giro d'Italia back in 2005.
Just off of his right shoulder there, Jose Herrada in the Movistar. Lars Bach out of your screen on the right is the Lotto Belisol man. In front of him, Matthias Frank for BMC. rider, 198, Matthias Brandl there, or Brandl actually.
Well, they're working that margin up close to 12 minutes now. The field led by Francis Deja in the white, and also Katusha losing some ground.
Canadian Dominique Roland just out of the picture for FDJ on the left side of the screen. He was in a crash a few days back, but seems to be relatively unscathed from that.
And the pink jersey of Joaquim Rodriguez is there near the front, next to the Astana riders at the bottom of the screen, just moving out of the frame. So Rodriguez will feel very comfortable about this position. No threatening GC riders up the road. He had the rest day yesterday. This is almost like a de facto second consecutive rest day. Number 121 there is Basso in the green for Liquigas Cannondale. He's in third overall. 122 back. There's Mark Cavendish in the red jersey, the points leader. And Thursday, we'll look for his fourth individual win of this year's race. So everybody rolling along. Very pedestrian pace here, with the gap now almost 12 minutes. It's a breakaway kind of day at the Giro d'Italia. Now over 12 minutes for our 10 leaders with 36 kilometers to go. The field is almost 10 kilometers behind them on the road and showing no interest in bringing them back right now. Again, the highest placed rider is Jose Herrera Lopez of Movistar, but he's over 32 minutes behind the race leader, Joaquim Rodriguez.
Ooh, and it looks like we had a little crash in the caravan there.
Not bikes, but motorcycles this time.
This stuff happens occasionally. The cars often swap a little bit of paint as well as they're jockeying for position, but you never want to see it with the motorcycles because it's a lot more painful for these guys.
Yeah, looks like everybody's okay. Vini again without a true GC leader. Haven't done much in the sprint, so to get the win with Matteo Rabatini on that epic ride on stage 15, Mazzanti in the break today. They're doing what they can to be active in this race. And now this is the field, single file at the front, rolling along with a lot of vertical rock walls on both sides as they are in the perimeter of the Dolomites now. Not going up the big climbs today, but they get a sense of what they're in for with three big stages in the Dolomites in the final 6 days of racing.
Yeah, Ignatiev on the front there. He'll just ride that steady tempo. Once again, no real concerns because they can let that group off the front get 30 minutes before it becomes a concern for Rodriguez's pink jersey. So they're
Frances Dejean with everybody lined up at the front end of the field. And they've actually been collectively riding as a pretty full team near the front of the peloton today.
Maybe they think it's just simpler that way. A lot of the teams are really bunched up together in the peloton today because it's always nice to be around your teammates. You have common interests to talk about and so on. And there's not that fighting going on that we normally see for position, so it's actually easier to keep your team all together once you're together on a day like this.
Now remember, the breakaway of a few stages ago, the Frenchman Sandy Cassar survived in that break, took back some time, moved himself up into the top 3 in the GC at that particular moment in the race. He's since fallen back somewhat.
He was looking at virtual pink there, and it would have been really something for him because a French rider has not led the Giro d'Italia in a very long time. They haven't led any, well, they have led the Tour de France, but they have not led the Giro in a long time.
12.5 minutes for our leaders, under 25 kilometers left to go. Well, altogether at this year's 3-week Giro race, 39 climbs, and they still have 11 of those left to go in the final 5 days of racing after today, and arguably the 3 hardest ones. So if you think we've seen some aggressive, hard racing in the first 2.5 weeks, get ready for this final week of racing.
Indeed, fasten your seat belts, as it's going to come to a major battle. And the Stelvio, actually, that stage 20 finish was a big battleground between the Austrians and the Italians right at the top in World War I. And we're going to see that very same type of battling going on the bikes, as the guys know it is critical to their chances of winning this race overall.
Now the field finally coming through the intermediate sprint point. Feels like forever ago that our leaders went through.
Well, 12 and a half minutes is pretty much forever in a bike race.
Yeah. On a single stage, you bet. As Katusha leads him through, still at a casual pace. Now they're riding today into an area of northern Italy where they had that big uphill time trial back in the 2010 race, which overall, of course, was won by Ivan Basso, the Plan de Clarones. Interesting, the Giro this year without an uphill time trial for the first time since 2007. So deciding not to include an uphill TT in this 95th edition.
Uphill TT is a very cool race, but it's also a type of race that the guys have very little experience with. And the pacing in an uphill time trial, some guys get it great and other guys completely miss it, and they start out too hard and they just blow up spectacularly.
Tuesday crowd welcomes the peloton into town. Katusha and FDJ in charge at the front. Now Katusha has pink-tipped bottles that they're using today. Of course, Joaquin Rodriguez is in the pink jersey. And oftentimes we see pink gloves, a helmet, handlebar wrappings, things of that nature. But I think this is the first time I've ever seen pink-tipped bottles by the team-leading squad.
You got to celebrate it, and every team seems to find their own way. Some guys will go pink from head to toe. Some will have the pink bike. Some will have the pink decals. I've seen pink decals on the wheels as well. So many different ways to do it, but you also see all the towns putting out balloons and streamers and all kinds of pink.
Now they come into the Brixen region, the big cathedral dedicated to Santa Maria Assunta.
In all this part of Italy, you'll notice that they have a German name and an Italian name for everything, for the towns, for the landmarks, because it has such a strong Austrian influence, as it hasn't been part of Italy for all that long.
Pope Benedict spent time in this region. His grandmother is from here, so used to spend some holidays in this part of northern Italy, up near the Austrian border. As we're now down back to our 10-man breakaway.
Speaking of Austrians, Matthias Brandl is an Austrian on the German NetApp team. He was part of that squad that won the team time trial at the Coppi e Bartali earlier this year, and his teammate Jan Barta went on to win the overall in the process.
You see how their season was second at the Cirque de la Sarthe race earlier this year. So Team Sky with riders on the left-hand side of the road in the dark colors. Katusha on the right with the pink jersey in tow. In the middle of the screen, pink and blue, that is Lampre. So the team's a little more organized, riding together at the front of the field, but not riding to bring back this breakaway, just riding with all of the riders intact. And
yeah, they're starting to realize that they're going to need to be in decent position for that final climb up toward the finish line. They still got a little bit of time before anything really is going to heat up in the field, because the breakaway is 10.5K from the finish. The field is almost 12 minutes behind them, but you could is about to heat up. And this breakaway, they know it. They've been biding their time. No attacks yet. It's all coming down to this.
And they're also going to hit a 12% section, less than a kilometer from right now. And Wally Boaro is the rider in the dark blue there for Saxo Bank. And here goes the Movistar rider, Jose Herrera Lopez, the first attack from the breakaway.
And Matthias Frank responding there for C. It's Steph Boaro.
Well, they waited for the road to go up, and then the attack came almost instantaneously from the Movistar man. Frank on his wheel, then Luca Mazzanti in the yellow for Farnese Vini. Those are the first three.
Well, Murata, first year on the Movistar squad. Didn't have any wins last year, but the year before picked up a few wins in his native land of Spain as well as in Portugal. Here's a replay of that attack.
Highest placed man in the GC among the 10 riders, but still over 32 minutes behind Joaquin Rodriguez.
Gary there, right on his wheel for Euskaltel, looking back over his shoulder. Now he's going to push it a little bit here.
So Harada didn't go anywhere. Izaguirre now trying to accelerate away from Matthias Frank, who once again tries to respond to the acceleration at the front of the move.
Matthias Frank looking very attentive, and his legs backing him up, as he has been the first man to respond to both of these first surges on the climb.
All right, coming up on the steepest part at 12% with 4K left to go to the finish. Izaguirre at the top of the screen in the orange, Frank just behind him, and then Jose Harada Lopez of Movistar. And here goes Frank.
He is really lighting up this climb right now. That man showing a lot of heart as he really wants to pick up this stage win.
So Frank in the red and black for BMC, Izaguirre in the orange for Euskaltel. Slight gap back to Jose Harada Lopez of Movistar, causing some damage to the other riders in the breakaway. Fourth rider on the road, that is Alessandro De Marchi of Androni.
Matthias Frank never having picked up a Grand Tour stage win before. Back in 2010, he won the mountains classification at the Tour de Suisse. He's a solid climber. And Brandl on the back here, the Austrian in the move, getting in big trouble.
Under 4K now left. Trying to ride away from Frank.
Everybody's still marking each other. Nobody get Markey now trying to come up.
Frank trying to respond again. This is the third different time he's tried to answer an attack. Izaguirre has a small margin. De Marchi is the second rider on the road now. In the white, looking back to see where Frank and Lopez are. So he's opening up some daylight there. Izaguirre at the front. De Marchi second. Has him in his sights. As Izaguirre tries to get Euskaltel team at this year's race. They haven't had much luck in breakaways or anything else, so they need some kind of success.
They've been largely anonymous over the 2 weeks of racing so far. De Marchi looks like he has definitely got the horsepower to get up to Izaguirre. And then it is Harada and Frank.
Now, it was that man in the dark colors with the green helmet, Jose Harada Lopez of Movistar, who launched the first attack once they got to the hill. Frank, who's right behind him now, was the first to respond. But then they were dropped. We have Izaguirre here at the front, followed by De Marchi, second on the road.
Marchi, though he looked like he was Izaguirre, he is not closing down that gap. He looks like he's starting to struggle as Izaguirre keeping the pressure on. Just under 2 miles to go from here to the finish.
Euskaltel, a team that is known for its climbing skill, led by Mikel Nieve this year, a guy who won a stage at the Giro last year, but hasn't done all that much in this 2012 edition. And now De Marchi is being passed by Harada Lopez and Frank. And that's the gap from our leader to the chasers, with under 3K to go.
This is a very significant move by the Euskaltel rider, and especially considering if the 3 guys behind him don't catch him on this climb and they play any games with each other about not chasing as a unit, Izaguirre could ride off and pick up the stage win.
As it does flatten out somewhat, it is a false flat once they get past the steepest part, but still it's slightly uphill, easier than the bottom section of it. Just about to the point where it starts to back off in terms of the gradient. It's somewhat flatter, just over 2K from the finish. And the final 2 kilometers on an old country road in this part of northern Italy. Now, here's our 3 chasers. Harada Lopez in the dark, De Marchi in the white, and Frank in the red and black. And that's how far they are back to our leader.
No bottles on the bike, ejected everything before the final climb. Take those final few swigs and get off any extra weight you can. Well,
he counterattacked the early moves on the climb, and now It's a big solo effort for Jan Izagirre of the Euskaltel team in the final 2.5 kilometers to try and pull away and win the stage.
Very impressive ride, as he wasn't the first man to attack, but you often don't want to be the first man to attack, not unless you've had your team on the front setting a really hard tempo and putting everybody into trouble. Everybody's fresh during that first attack, and you want to go on one of the counter moves.
These are the three chasers, but not a lot of strength left in this group, it doesn't look like. This is back at the field now, and the pace has really picked up. Ivan Basso sitting second wheel behind his teammate for Liquigas Canada.
And then just a couple wheels back there in the blue train, that's Garmin Barracuda's rider Hejdahl.
Now, Izagirre, the 23-year-old for this Basque-based team, looking to give them their first taste of success at this year's Giro d'Italia.
He's looking very strong right now. Still behind. We've noticed the little bit we've seen the three chasers that they seem to be working fairly well together, but look the size of that gap. I think it's over, quite honestly. I don't think they can bring him back.
Demarquis looking over his shoulder, waiting to see if he's going to get some help. Now,
oh, Franck there shaking his head. There's the first signs of trouble for that group. So Franck, I can't tell if he's playing games or if he really is in trouble. It looks like he is in trouble. He's looking back and he just got dropped.
And this man's still looking steady. 1.5 kilometers left to go. Still slightly uphill. But certainly not as steep as it was in the first sections where we saw the initial attacks come. He now has 14 seconds over those chasers, but again, they look fatigued. He looks relatively fresh.
And basically no turns, nothing crazy between here and the finish, so he doesn't have to worry about navigating a hairpin and crashing. It's all about the engine here. 1K to go for him. That last look over his shoulder before he goes under the 1K banner, I think he's going to be pretty happy with what he's seeing.
Now Steph Clement helping in the chase. He's the rider for Rabobank in the orange and blue alongside Matthias Franck of BMC. Now that it's flattened out somewhat, Clement trying to use those exceptional TT skills to try and bring this Euskaltel rider back, but it may be too late. 700 meters from the line now.
It's not going to be easy here for Izagirre, but he does seem to have enough of a gap. Look at him using the whole body, rocking the bike, a la Jens Vogt, using everything he can there, but he's about half the size of Jens.
4 hours in, and the chase is going to run out of steam. Izagirre, it looks like, is going to hang on with 0.5 K left to go. This is still slightly uphill, falls flat, but straight. They can see each other, and you see the chasers looking around at one another, wondering to see who's going to lead the chase. But now it's a battle for second place because Jan Izagirre of Euskaltel is riding into his first ever Grand Tour stage win. The 8th different rider to win his first ever Grand Tour stage at this year's Giro d'Italia.
Beautiful attack by him, great legs to back it up, and now Demarquis trying to lead the others across the line. Clement, Franck behind him.
Demarquis, really a big acceleration here. And he's going to take second, Clement third, Franck fourth, and Jose Herrera Lopez will round out the first 5.
Matthias Brandl, nice recovery there as he's chasing Boaro for Saxo Bank. Boaro looks like he'll pick up 6th, then Brandl for 7th.
So, still going to be a while before the GC riders come through. Do you anticipate any sort of late moves from any of those GC guys to get any kinds of gaps?
I think we'll see at least a testing move from somebody, and it would probably be Rodriguez. The question is, will it be severe enough to actually find anything to get a gap with?
All right, so here is that field. Still about 10 minutes behind our leaders who have just crossed with Jan Izagirre of Euskaltel, the stage winner. There goes the Colnago attack up the left-hand side of the road. So coming from the back, a Colnago rider attacks, and now it's responded to by Team Sky.
A lot of guys really don't care a lot about 11th place, but some guys will go for it. Almost 1K to go.
There's no time bonuses or anything available. And there's the red kite, meaning that they are now inside of 1K from the finish of stage 16.
If that was Domenico Pozzovivo for Colnago, you'd see a much swifter response from the pack because he's a GC guy.
Now the pink jersey still about 6 wheels from the front here. Several different teams with riders at the very front. No one team leading things at the moment. Now we had a Colnago rider off the front, followed by Sky. And they're just hanging in front of the GC group here with half a kilometer left to go. Ryder Hejdahl at the front of that group for Garmin Barracuda, just in front of the pink jersey of Joaquim Rodriguez. So the top two on the GC within 30 seconds of one another, and they are wheel to wheel basically.
Everybody just looking at each other. Looks like Juan Antonio Flecha is the Sky man as he comes around for the line for 11th place.
Now the first 10 again have already finished. And it looks like no big gaps are going to form between all of the GC riders as they come across in a pack. Just inside of 9 minutes behind our breakaway group on the day. Hands raised, looking back, riding in solo and able to soak it all in. Yanni Zaguirre of Euskaltel. First ever Grand Tour stage success for the 23-year-old. Part of a 10-man breakaway that had 12.5 minutes at 1 point. He responded to the initial attacks in the final 5K, and he was the strongest at the end.
Just warmed your heart to see a young guy like that taking such a big victory. And he didn't have to suffer quite as bad as Rabatini did yesterday, even fending off Rodriguez in the final 200 meters.
One of the most critical days of the entire race this year. 4 substantial climbs in the Dolomite Mountains of northern Italy. And the main field has just over 85 kilometers left to go. They are a few minutes behind a 5-man breakaway. And they've gone over 1 of the 4 climbs already on this Wednesday at the Giro. I'm Steve Schlanger alongside Todd Gagulski. Many of the riders go figured it would come down to 3 decisive days in the Dolomite Mountains in this final week. And here we are on day number 1.
This day is a lot of climbing, almost 15,000 feet for the guys, 4 big mountains, and the final, the Passo Giao, a huge climb, and then a very tricky descent down to the finish as well, which could also create separation.
No surprise, our leaders are no threat on the general classification. They're over 4 minutes up the road on all of the top GC contenders on one of the most gorgeous regions of a very gorgeous country. And there is a reason why so many cyclists live in northern Italy, why they come to the Dolomites every year, and why these are some of the most spectacular stages in Grand Tour cycling and really in all of cycling because of the scenery, the geography. I mean, this is simply without words.
It's fantastic riding territory, very jagged mountains, very rocky, very exposed as well. It's also very intimidating for most of the guys, but when you end up in a breakaway today like this, going for a stage win or a lot of time off the front, it's a nice place to be.
Partly cloudy skies, temperatures in the 60s today, but of course the temperature will change as they go up to the higher elevations, drop down on the back sides. There are splashes of snow still at the top, so those temperature variations will also play a role. The riders will feel it. And of course, for some, you just never know how your body is going to react in the 3rd week of a long, hard race. So some guys still going through that physiological process as well. So that is where we stand. 5-man breakaway, 4-minute lead, 83K left to go, underway on stage 17 at the Giro. Deep into the Giro now, day 17, and this is what is in store. 186 kilometers into Cortina d'Ampezzo, big climbing day, and And the Giro is set to really roll into a GC battle in the first of the final 5 days of competition. And look at all the jagged points on the profile for stage 17. 4 climbs on the menu. This is where they are, far north of Italy in the spectacular Dolomite Mountains, heading south to start the stage before turning back north for the finish.
And this is a day that guys have been thinking about for a long time because of the succession of big mountains, cold temperatures, treacherous descents, as well as major climbs to separate things out. Not only will the climbs separate things, but that descent off the Passo Giao could be telling as well, especially because Ivan Basso, one of the best climbers, does not particularly like treacherous descending like that.
And we look down on the tail end of the main field in the red jersey of Mark Cavendish leading the points competition. Number 181, 3-time individual stage winner at this year's race, hoping to survive today's stage because he will have his last sprinting opportunity most likely coming up tomorrow. And a lot of the other top sprinters have already left the race, so Cavendish could be looking good for win number 4 if he makes the time cut today.
Cavendish is going to have to survive about 15,000 feet of climbing today to make it to stage number 18 tomorrow. But he continues to say he's in this race to finish it out and get that sprinter's jersey, the red jersey, as the best sprinter.
Steve Schlanger with Tal Gagulski. Glad to have you with us for our live coverage of the 95th Giro d'Italia. Stage 17 and a 5-man breakaway just inside of 5 minutes ahead of the field with just under 80 kilometers left to go. So we'll show you where the riders are at this very moment. After having already gone over one of the 4 categorized climbs, they're coming towards the base of the next one in the first of 2 Category 1 ascents. So that next climb, the Duran, will start. There's left to go. Euskaltel, the team in the orange and black at the front of the peloton, followed by Astana. And the Euskaltel squad, the team of yesterday's stage winner Jan Izagirre, the Spaniard, in his first Grand Tour, picking up his first ever Grand Tour stage victory.
Beautiful day in the career for that young man. Several riders, as we've been through over 2 weeks of racing already, who have had their first ever Grand Tour stage victory. And for a lot of guys, that really gets their career off to a fantastic place where then they become some of the mainstays of the guys that we see performing so well later on.
Euskaltel with 7 riders at the front, doing the work, keeping the breakaway under control. The first time we have seen Euskaltel do this kind of work at the front of the peloton so far in this race.
They're certainly much more in their element in the high mountains. Their highest rider in the general classification is Mikel Nieve, 4 minutes 21 seconds down, and they seem to have some serious designs on today's course.
Now Euskaltel, prior to yesterday, really hadn't done much at this year's Giro d'Italia, and they're not really a major player for the general classification right now. However, the team right behind them, Astana, still has Roman Kreuziger as their top GC rider, even though he's 1 spot below his teammate Paulo Tiralongo. But Tiralongo said he is riding solely at the service of Kreuziger. As we look at the GC coming into day number 17, you see Joaquim Rodriguez, the overall leader, by 30 seconds on Ryder Hesjedal. And then 4th and 5th, Tiralongo and Kreuziger, the 2 Astana teammates, both inside of a minute and a half back. And you go all the way down to Michele Scarpone sitting 6th. All of those guys still with a chance with 5 days remaining.
Been some great riding by both Rodriguez and Hesjedal, the top 2 in the standings so far, as they've been the only guys really able to extract themselves from the other general classification contenders over some key crucial summit finishes so far in the race. So that's what's moved them ahead, and they've got that little buffer between the other guys that are all clumped so closely together.
Well, here's our 5-man breakaway, and the AG2R rider in the brown and white there is Matteo Monteguti. Also the Colombian for Androne, Jose Serpa Perez. The man for Astana there is Kevin Seeldreers, the Belgian. Branislav Samolau is in the move for Movistar, and for Farnese Vini, somehow still with legs that are turning over the pedals, Matteo Rabatini, who went over 4 climbs by himself on Sunday stage 15 And once again, he's in the move on another big mountain climbing day today.
Well, nothing breeds success like success. So Rabatini getting that stage win, an unbelievable ride where he held off a really powerful group of chasers for over an hour, and then ultimately was caught right before the finish by Rodriguez. Still summons the courage and the strength to hold on the wheel and outsprint him.
So Astana has a rider in the move with Kevin Sealdreher, so not doing the work at the front of the field, even though they have 2 riders in the top 5 on the GC. That man, Roman Kreuziger, their overall leader. So a good situation for the Astana team to be in. But expect the likes of Liquigas, Cannondale, and Katusha to also make appearances at the front when this race starts to go back up into the mountains and the climbs start again. We are approaching the second of the 4 categorized climbs today. It'll start with 70K to go and last for just over a dozen kilometers. The hills back in the distance and our 5 leaders rolling along just under 4 minutes up the road. He accomplished going over 4 peaks by himself on stage 15, that epic long ride that also got him a stage win, also got him the lead in the King of the Mountains category, and now he's in the breakaway today, hoping to solidify that position.
He did pick up maximum mountains points on the category 2 climb they've already been over today, so that gives him now a 16-point lead over Mikael Golas, the man he took that jersey away from with his big solo on stage number 15.
Our 5 leaders coming through a Gorda and about to start the climb of the Duran. It's a climb of just over 12 kilometers in length, averaging 8% with a maximum of 14% that comes right at the bottom. So it's pretty close to the bottom of the climb, but that's the way a lot of these climbs are structured today. Some of their steepest sections come early, with the exception of the Jiao late, which is just a steady slog uphill that never really relents much at all.
The Jiao is a very beastly climb indeed. Does hit a maximum gradient of 14%, but averages over 9%, and it's very steady most of that way.
That's the thing we've seen about the climb so far in the Giro, that there have been some steep ones, we've seen some long ones, but at some point it levels off, or there's a downhill. There's something that gives the riders a break. But the Jiao never lets up. It is steep all the way start to finish.
Yeah, even in those final half a kilometer, it's still over 9%. And I have to say right now, looking at this field, Euskaltel with the orange jerseys all over the front with a very high rate of speed. They seem to be extremely motivated right now.
The breakaway, 3.5 minutes ahead. And remnants of crashes earlier in the Giro. And most of those happened in the first week.
With the mechanical. And
Very, it's a new bike.
Very quickly there.
A good time for it to happen just before the climb.
No doubt about that. And it's also great when you're in the breakaway because your car is right behind you. Realize that there are dozens of cars behind the peloton, and if you have some sort of mechanical in the peloton, you have to wait for the whole field to get by you, and then until your car makes it up to you as well.
And we saw him crash on the last ascent he went over on stage 15. Didn't seem to bother him as he went on to win the stage. Quick mic change here, and he should be able to catch back on to the other 4 riders in the breakaway, as they have now started the climb of the Duran, second of the 4 categorized climbs today on stage 17. Relatively mild temperatures in the 60s today, and we caught a break with the weather. Nice. They had forecasted rain and much colder temperatures, but it looks like it should stay dry for the remainder of the stage.
Rabatini is a guy who's really made a huge name for himself on his stage win here. His team's been calling him Rambo for a while, but I never really adopted that nickname for him, and now I think it's more fitting the way he rode stage 15 to that stage win.
The Dolomites are some of the most picturesque, jagged mountains in all the world. Snow at the top because of the high elevations. They get up close to 10,000 feet, and classic ski country in northern Italy. And today the riders headed towards the classic ski town of Cortina d'Ampezzo, host venue for the 1956 Winter Olympics. And Euskaltel, one orange and black still leading the field, riding through the town, and about to start the climb themselves. Now for the other top GC teams like Katusha, Liquigas, Cannondale, Astana, Garmin Barracuda, probably happy to see Euskaltel come to the front and take up the chase.
Whenever one team is on the front, it means the other guys get to sit back, relax a little bit, basically fasten the seat belts, because they know this thing is going to go absolutely insane on these climbs coming up. When the tempo is this high, this early in the race, you know it's not going to finish with very many guys together.
Coming into a stage like this after 2.5 weeks of tough racing, do you have a sense of how your body is going to respond on a day like today, or in some ways is it an unknown in a lot of variables?
Well, they have a pretty good idea. The difference today is that the weather is not cold and rainy. Stage 15, where they had some big mountains, they had sort of a different type of temperature and weather situation to make them feel differently. So today, it's really going to be the first time that the conditions are good and the body will respond a little differently.
Jack Bauer and Alex Rasmussen, the two Garmin Barracuda riders a moment ago, near the back, as they're staring at the tail end of the main field. Now back to the front, inside of 3 minutes behind our 5 leaders. 70K remaining.
I mean, really, the pace they're riding right now, it looks like they're in the last hour, hour and a half of most races with a lot of mountains. So it is really hotted up quite a bit. They pulled back a bunch of time from the breakaway. The breakaway's been working very smooth and very hard, but not with the same fervor that's at the front of the peloton.
Now, they'd have more time if Euskaltel wasn't doing this work, but their margin only got up to right around 4 minutes at its highest point, and now has come down to 2:44.
Well, today will be a big day to start to really solidify the general classification. Though it is not a summit finish, we'll get a good indication of who has the climbing legs. The next 2 mountain days after this are summit finishes, so there's no time for anybody to catch back on, or for that matter, stretch out a lead if they're a good descender.
Just the length of the climbs today is going to create a natural selection. And even though we have that descent at the end, just not enough time for all of those guys to catch back on who get dropped. Miguel Nieve on the descent of the Paso Duran. This is back at the front of the field. Liquigas Cannondale leading the way. 55 kilometers left to go on stage 17. Nieve is only 22 seconds back of a 4-man breakaway. And this field that has the top GC riders, they're just about a minute off the pace. And check out how technical this descent is.
Just be thankful that the guys didn't get the bad weather that was talked about in the last couple of days. This is very hard as it is, and Nieve now trying to close down those last 23 seconds to the group of 4 in front of him.
2 climbs in the bank, 2 more still to go. The Stalanza will be next, and it starts pretty quickly. They come off this descent, and then with 50K left to go in the stage, they're all of a sudden going back uphill, and it's another climb in excess of 12 kilometers in length.
Don't look for this peloton to be led at a total breakneck pace by Liquigas Cannondale, because Basso's a bit uncomfortable with these descents, and he's talked about not wanting to try and win this race on the descents, but win it on the climbs.
So no opportunity to catch your breath. You're either going uphill or downhill at some point, the final 75K. And that's the back on Soleil rider, Gustav Larsson.
And it looks like he went down. He's got some road rash, light road rash on his left leg there, his elbow as well. So one of, I'm sure, many guys will end up coming to a very bad ending on one of these corners.
Let's look back.
Oh, that was pretty nasty, actually.
That's where we saw Nieve really swing wide a moment ago.
Wow.
That tight turn. Thank you, guardrail.
Yuck.
So like I said, there's just no time to blink your eye. Take a breath. You got a very technical descent on tight roads, and then they come down off of this and they go straight back up another long climb.
And one of the big challenges today is getting your calories in. You can't eat when you're on the climb going flat out because you're breathing so hard. Your heart rate is so high. Look at this. Nieve is it in fact Nieve? Everybody's all spread out.
Yeah, that four-man group has come apart, it looks like. This is Kevin Sealdreers.
And it did look like he was starting to lead the other group of three earlier on. So he has dropped Serpa, he has dropped Samilau, and he has dropped Rabatini.
Rabatini, not surprising. He was really struggling up that climb. Just wanted to protect his lead in the King of the Mountains. So he suffered in order to do that.
Yeah, and look at this here. So you can't eat on the climb. How do you eat on this descent? He's getting a drink right there, and that's just barely time to pull that bottle out and get some liquid into your system. But to actually eat something or get a gel, very tough on a descent like this, but you have to get it before the next climb.
Now Mikhail Nieve chasing, try to catch up to Sealdreers. And speaking of not eating, it was back on Sunday where Peter Stetina admitted that he didn't eat right, and he balked, and that's the reason he wasn't there to help out Ryder Hejdahl on stage 15.
So Nieve just pulling something out of the pocket there. It looks like it was a gel, much easier to get into the system quickly than hard food, but it's still a long way from the finish. A lot of guys don't want to be doing gels quite this soon. And one of the reasons that Peter Stetina bonked that day is partly due to the cold rain, where you need more calories. You never want to eat as much when it's raining. You never want to drink as much, and you have to force yourself to do it. You have dirt in your mouth. It's really an unpleasant experience out there.
And that, he said, it was just an amateur mistake, one that he won't repeat. But he also said that his team feels good about where they have Ryder Hejdahl positioned and their chance to keep him up there. And he feels like they really surprised a lot of the Italians who haven't expected Hejdahl to hang in the way that he has.
One of the things that really impressed me about Ryder on the rest day a couple of days ago, I spoke with him, and I asked him what he's learned about the race so far, and he said the big thing was that he learned if he set himself a goal, that he could make it happen. He set the goal to ride for the general classification back in November. He had never really done that before, and he finds himself in second place right now, 17 days into this race.
And seeing how he feels, things are otherwise set up pretty well for Hejdahl because he's only 30 seconds back. He's the best time trialist of the top GC riders going into the final day. He's always at his best in the third week of a Grand Tour, and he likes these longer climbs, these longer days on the bike, and that's what we have for 3 days in the Dolomites. So things are really set up nicely for Hejdahl.
And Nieve using every millimeter of the roadway in these corners, and that's what you want to do to keep the best trajectory. You want to start wide, dive right into the apex, and then use everything coming back out. Keep as much speed as you can. The less you use your brakes, the less energy you have to re-accelerate to use.
All right, so Kevin Sealdreers, the last remaining rider from what was a five-man breakaway. Now he's at the front of the race by himself. Mikhail Nieve of Euskaltel, who attacked from the peloton, is chasing him. And they're starting the third climb, the Stolonza. Nieve, second rider on the road, it looks like here, in pursuit. So they've dropped Branislav Samilau, Jose Serpa, Matteo Rabatini, and we saw Matteo Monagudi, part of the breakaway earlier. He's been caught, and now it looks like Nieve is coming up on the back of the other three riders. So he was chasing those other three. And it's Sealdreers at the front. Those three were dropped, but still dangling in the middle here.
There's a lot of pain in this group of four because, as you can see, Rabatini looks like he is going backwards. Nieve looks like he is going to make it up to the other two, but they are still in pursuit of Sealdreers. It's such a long way for Sealdreers to make this to the finish, but you got to hand it to him for throwing it all out there.
So Kevin Sealdreers, with just under 50K left to go, starting the third climb. It's a Category 2, 12.3K long, averaging 7%, and the maximum of 11% comes in the first half kilometer.
Well, Rabatini may be dropped now, but he has a 31-point lead in the KOM now after getting maximum points on the last climb. So he is well higher than Mikael Golas.
This is Jose Serpa in the white, Samilau in the dark for Movistar, and Nieve in the orange for Euskaltel. Rabatini further back in the blue jersey. He's been dropped from this group, and they are now the second group on the road behind Sealdreers.
So Nieve, with this smoking, storming descent, took a lot of risk, made it up to that group, and it's still Valerio Agnoli on the front for Ivan Basso. Basso out of the saddle on the left side of your screen there.
Now you see a lot of days where they'll do a climb, go down a descent, and have a nice long flat road before the next climb. Well, today is not one of those.
Yeah, you throw that out the window. There is no time to rest, no time to eat, sit back, and get ready for the next climb.
The pink jersey, number 111 of race leader Joaquim Rodriguez, still near the front.
There's Gustav Larsson's leg.
Crash on that last descent. Trying to catch back up. But this man is the leader. Kevin Sealdreher's at the front of the race right now. Under 50K to go. He's on climb number 3 here on stage 17. We come back looking down on the field. They are a minute and a half behind our leaders with just over 48 kilometers left to go. That puts them on the lower slopes of the second to last climb, the Category 2 Stolanza climb. That averages 7% for over a dozen kilometers. And we now welcome in the European correspondent for Velo News who joins us from the finish in Cortina d'Ampezzo. It's Andrew Hood. And Hoodie, first off, among the conversation that's taking place there, what do people anticipate for the outcome of this stage? What's going to happen over these final 2 climbs?
Yeah, the buzz was that, of course, they think that the difference is going to come in the final climb. Marito Rodriguez was saying yesterday he doesn't expect the descent to be much of a factor. And obviously the weather is quite good here in Cortina, so it won't be raining, so they'll be coming down off the climb on the dry. Even though guys like Basso, they're not the best descenders, guys who can get down the hill might be able to open up a small gap. Any gaps to get over the top of that climb, they're going to be looking to defend those on the way in down to Cortina.
Interesting to hear that Rodriguez is saying he doesn't think the descent's going to be much of a factor. We're seeing Matteo Rabatini, the mountains leader, dropped out of the break now. But do you think somebody's going to try and take advantage of Basso on that final descent?
I think that if it's in the arsenal, you have to go for it. Marito yesterday was saying, no, Grand Tours are not decided on the descent. We saw even last year's tour where guys like Schleck were really struggling in that stage into the gap. It's part of being a bike racer is going downhill fast, and some guys can obviously do a lot better than Basso. Is not renowned as being the best descender. Scenic and Liquigas, I mean, their whole strategy is just to grind at the front of the peloton every day and just try to wear these guys out and let Basso do his thing. Seems like they're betting on Fridays and Saturday stages. We'll see how it plays out today.
Well, as far as the overall race leader, Joaquim Rodriguez, how do you expect him to fare on these 3 big mountain stages in the Dolomites? And what would his lead potentially be going into the time trial if he's still in the pink jersey?
Yeah, he's obviously in an enviable position right now. I mean, he's got a good gap on all the Italian guys, 122 on Boston and the up behind him. The guy, of course, he's most worried about, I think, is Hesjedal. So they're going to be trying to kind of isolate Ryder and maybe just kind of get rid of him. I think everyone needs to get rid of Ryder because he's the rider, no pun intended, that can kind of take back some time in that final time trial in Milano. But Marito, he needs more time. And he was saying, to start this morning, he said if he can attack today, he's going to go for it because he knows he needs more time in his pocket going into that final TT, especially against a guy like Hesjedal.
When I talked with Ryder on the rest day, he was telling me that he feels, I asked him if he felt like he was an underdog and if his team was an underdog team, and he told me that he felt like his team has ridden terrifically well and that he's ridden great, and he didn't think of himself as an underdog at all. What do you think people are viewing Ryder and Garmin Barracuda like at this point?
Well, I think that there's a lot of underestimation of Hesjedal as well as the Garmin team in general. I mean, unfortunately with the Tour of California at the same time, Garmin's bring a lot of its good riders to Cali. They could have used that extra horsepower here at this Giro. I was talking to Alan Piper this morning, sport director at Start, and he was saying that this really is the first time in the team history that they've really come into a Grand Tour targeting a GC. It's kind of surprising to hear that. But, in the past, when guys like Vandevelde or Wiggins or even Danielson popped into the top 10, he said it was almost accidental. This year, they started plotting this strategy to be strong in the Giro back in November with Ryder. So he's coming in, hitting peak form, and he's been, I think, a big surprise for the Italians. But talking to the sport directors on teams like Astana, everyone knows Ryder's strong. They know he's a threat. He's obviously still there. They're having to try to get rid of him. As simple as that.
All right, we're about to have a change at the front of the race. It looks like Kevin Sealdraers is going to be caught by Branislav Samolau, Jose Serpa, and Mikhail Nieve. So again, we will have 4 riders at the front with a lead of 120 on this main field that holds all of the GC riders. Valerian Yoli, number 122 of Liquigas Cannondale, had been helping to pace Basso. He pulled off the front, and now again, this is back at the very front. And with regard to Basso, Andrew, obviously the tactic is they're trying to burn guys off his wheel. He still needs over a minute. Do you think that this strategy is going to be successful for them and that they're going to be able to drop enough guys and gain that time over the 3 big days in the Dolomites?
Well, it's the big question mark. Is really Basso kind of back at that level where he was in 2010 when that strategy didn't work, where he could just grind people off his wheel. Kind of buzz, talking to some people in the peloton, is that Basso is not looking quite as sharp as perhaps the team's trying to play it out. The guy that sounds very confident is Scott Pony. He's been relatively quiet up to now, made a few attacks in those earlier punchier climbs, but he's a guy, he's the guy that needs to attack the most. He said he's up for it. I think we're going to see some moves from Scott Pony today. He's got to move. Kreuziger, they got to try something with Girolamo. Maybe they can run a 1-2 it. But, these guys can't just wait and wait and wait. Maybe it will all come down to the Stelvio. But I think if they leave it to the Stelvio, it's going to be too late for a lot of these guys.
And when we look at Liquigas Cannondale and their strategy of putting guys on the front, especially today, very early, do you think that maybe Basso is going to be isolated a long way from the summit of the Passo Gil today?
Yeah, he very well could be. Smid is always his last man there. That climb, it kind of just grinds up. I think we'll start seeing some serious attacks. Maybe at least I hope halfway up the climb. These climbs now have kind of changed over the years. Before we used to see these attacks, guys like Nieve going off and trying something. But now everyone is so really on the river. They're so afraid of going too deep. They're so afraid of making a wild attack because they know they're going to pay for it the next day. So I think guys are just going to have to be cautious. They'll make some moves, but they'll come late in it and they'll decline.
All right, Andrew Hood, we appreciate the time, and thanks for the visit from the finish in Cortina.
Okay, guys, thanks.
It's Andrew Hood, the European correspondent for Velo News.
Well, he makes a great point there at the end that the pace that's being set by the field, whatever team is setting the pace, is always so hot that guys are just intimidated to attack early on in a climb because you see it time and time again. Yes, Nieve just went across to the break, but that's very rare. Usually a guy attacks like that, they get nowhere, they get caught, and then they're just done for the rest of the day. They can't recover.
Now the pink jersey of Joaquim Rodriguez is just behind Michele Scarponi, who is just behind Ivan Basso. Roman Kreuziger is there. Ryder Hejdahl still hanging near the front. Precisely 1 minute behind our leading group of 4, with still over 45.5 kilometers left to go. Spectacular day in the Dolomite Mountains of northern Italy. This is the 3rd climb of 4, the Cat 2 Stolanza. Last climb, over 12 kilometers, averaging 7%. The hardest parts are at the beginning and the end. And Joaquim Rodriguez, race leader. Now just so intent on the job at hand.
And Rodriguez there with the little black ribbon on his right shoulder there for Xavi Tondo. As everybody thinking a lot about the loss of a great man in cycling a year ago.
And his former teammate Branislav Samolau in the breakaway today, still up there for Movistar, the 1-year anniversary of Tondo's death. Benyat Chosti, who's been leading this Movistar team, is back in the field, and he was with him when Tondo died a year ago. They were training together in Sierra Nevada, and Tondo died in Benyat Chosti's arms, basically bled to death after an accident. So Chosti really has taken a long time to try and recover and bounce back both physically and mentally. And when you're a rider looking at that, Todd Migulski, you see those peaks. And you've already gone over 2. You're on your 3rd of the day. Here's Ryder Hejdahl for Garmin Barracuda. Psychologically, how do you absorb that and embrace it.
Well, you try not to look up, I can tell you that much. You want to just bide your time and not think about how bad it is. This is Gaudret out of the saddle. Right behind him for Sky, Rigoberto Urán. There's Peter Stetina, Garmin Barracuda. Just behind him, Garmin Barracuda's Christian Vande Velde. All the hitters making their way to the front today.
There are 4 leaders now. It was a different 4-man group earlier that changed after one rider was dropped from a 5-man breakaway initially on the stage. Front end of the field, Ivan Basso with 2 teammates. Michele Scarpone also with a couple of teammates. Then the pink jersey of Joaquim Rodriguez sitting in front of the 3 Astana riders, one of which is Roman Kreuziger, their team leader. Ryder Hesjedal is still up there for Garmin Barracuda, sitting in the first dozen wheels. So the top GC riders separated by no more than a minute and a half are all together with just over 43K left to go, and they're inside of 1 minute to the leaders on stage 17.
This unrelenting pace continuing to be led by Liquigas Cannondale. That's Damiano Caruso on the front. Right behind him, his teammate Eros Kopecky, and then the team leader Ivan Basso. Schmid just coming through there a little bit further back. Maybe they're just putting Schmid a little bit further back, out of sight, out of mind, and they'll deploy him later on.
And just a moment ago, going through the intermediate sprint point, which on a day like today is simply a bad joke.
It's a really horrible joke, but Seal Dreyer's got the sprint and attacked through it, and now has a gap once again. No pro victories in his career, but he has been very aggressive today in taking the opportunity of being in this break.
25-year-old Belgian. He's been top 10 at races like Paris-Nice and the Volta a Catalunya over the years. And again, was the best young rider at the Giro 3 years ago, when he also finished in the top 15 overall. On the Stolonza climb, the Category 2, they've already done another Category 2, followed by a Cat 1, and they still have the Cat 1 Passo Giao coming up. And they're coming up on, again, what is one of the steepest sections of this Stolonza climb.
And Nieve looking like he's in a little bit of trouble. He had made his way up to the break, put out a huge effort to get there, and then once he got there, he was just drilling it, driving the pace. The break looks like it's almost about to get caught. Seal Dreyer's here, forging on ahead. In addition to the races you just mentioned, back in 2008, he was 5th overall, actually 2007, in the Tour de Georgia, a big race in the U.S. that's now defunct. So he's raced stateside before as well.
Peloton thinning, and the gaps up the road getting smaller. The Stolonza climb hit its maximum slope of 11% inside the first K, then leveling off somewhat, and then it gets steep again right through here in the final 5 kilometers. So it kicks back up right in this 42-kilometer left to go region, and then stays fairly steep all the way to the summit, which is just around 37.5K from the finish. So the easier part was in the middle, and now it's going to get a little more difficult, and we'll see how much that changes things, as it looks like they've almost brought the break back at this point. Coming down to under 20 seconds now, and there you see him in the background.
That's not a big surprise considering the tempo they've been setting. Now Nieve caught. There's Serpa and Samalau right in front, and the only man left will be Seal Dreyer's, and he probably won't last much longer.
Over 4 hours deep, still over 40K left. Still need to go over the summit of this Category 2 climb, and then a Cat 1 coming up next. So Samalau caught, Serpa caught, Nieve, just Seal Dreyer's left to be gathered in.
Notice Caruso there as he was catching Samalau, and Samalau wasn't paying attention, just kind of put his hand on the hip. Yo, we're here, we're coming through. Don't move over into us.
There's Seal Dreyer's, and his time is short-lived. He was part of the initial 5-man breakaway. That was the signature move on the day. That came apart. Nieve had attacked from the field, but now the second break has also dissolved. And this is just about the front of the race on stage 17.
Front of the bike race with 42 kilometers to go. Still a lot of climbing. This is going to be very interesting. Are we going to start seeing attacks now that no one's off the front anymore?
Liquigas Cannondale trying to discourage those attacks by riding that tempo at the front. 3 Liquigas, 3 Lampre, then Hejdahl and the pink jersey of Joaquin Rodriguez. So Sealdrers is picked up. This is now the front of affairs on stage 17. Penultimate climb, headed towards the top. We come back with just over 40 kilometers left to go on stage 17. Ivan Basso with his team now at the front of the race. They've caught the breakaway. He has 2 teammates behind him in the pink and blue, Michele Scarponi, also with a couple of teammates. And it's single file as they come up towards the top of the Stolonza climb.
Well, Kreuziger back pretty far in this group right now, as Roman Kreuziger down far in the back of that group.
Steep vertical cliffs every which direction you look in the Dolomite Mountains of northern Italy. Roman Kreuziger has been just hanging around the top 5 on the GC. He's been one of the more anonymous guys, though. Hasn't been attacking. His team hasn't done a lot of work. He's just been sitting back, staying in the top 10, top 12.
Domenico Pozzovivo there, the Colnago rider, picked up that stage win. A lot of guys waiting right now as this attrition just continues to burn guys off. And honestly, the way Liquigas Cannondale is on the front, they look very strong. The question is, will Basso be able to get the time? This is a beautiful tactic if you're in the jersey. But if you got to get the jersey, you got to get time.
Steve Schlanger, Todd Gogolski. The peloton is dropping riders with just about every kilometer as we close in on the final 40K of today's stage 17. And just about 3K away from the summit of the Category 2 Stolonza climb. After this, they'll have another technical descent, and then the Passo Giao, a Cat 1, will start with just under 28K left in the stage. All the top GC riders still clustered near the front.
Kreuziger looks like he's in a bit of trouble right now to me, Steve. And there's still a lot of climbing to go. They're just about 4 kilometers from the top of this, and Kreuziger is definitely in trouble. He's got some teammates back there with him.
Now he is definitely hurting.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The question now remains, what will they do? Will they keep Tirolongo up the road? I think they might at this point.
What would you do?
I would keep Tirolongo up the road and not put all your eggs in one basket. Tirolongo comes in just a second higher in the general classification. He has said he's here to work for Kreuziger, but hey, if Kreuziger's hurting,
that's the advantage.
I would do it. Yeah.
That's the advantage of having 2 GC cards to play.
And that gap is opened up, so Kreuziger is popped.
So the first of the top GC riders to really show a sense of suffering today and start to lose some time. Liquigas Cannondale setting the pace and hoping that that happens to all of the other guys who are around Basso.
Still Damiano Caruso on the front. Unbelievable riding by him as a domestique to eliminate Roman Kreuziger on this climb.
All those guys still look pretty good, though. Scarponi, Basso, rider Hejdahl, Joaquin Rodriguez, they're all hanging right there. Marching towards the top of the Stolonza climb. It'll summit with just around 37.5 kilometers left to go in the stage. And then the riders who are at that pink line will make the descent to the base of the Passo Giao and the Category 1. That'll be the 4th of the 4 categorized climbs on the day.
Oh, look at the giant gear Kreuziger is pushing right now as compared to his teammate who has come back to help him out. Tanel Kangert spinning much more comfortably. Kreuziger grinding a bit. And that shows part of what's happening to him. He's coming unraveled. Peter Stetina back there with him as well, it looked like. So not a good day for the American either.
Stetina, number 98, one of the two riders really counted on to help Ryder Hesjedal. Christian Vandevelde, the other for Garmin Barracuda. Stetina saying that he bonked on Sunday in stage 15 because of the cold. He forgot to eat, and he dropped off the pace much earlier than he normally would have.
Last year, Stetina did a lot of work in the race for other riders and still was very good in the overall classification, finishing just outside of the top 20 in 21st place. He was looking for a top 20 here this year, but things have not been going quite